There is no way you could have guessed by the title of the video or thumbnail, but today we are talking about crashing, injury, and the most important part, recovery. But yeah, this is me saying that if you've crashed recently, been injured recently, or just overall have had to recover from an injury at any point in your life, stick around. You might find this video entertaining. I had already previously made this video, but I filmed it in my room and I talked for about 15 minutes while staring at a camera, and without even looking at the footage, I know that is a video I wouldn't watch. And I'm not a vlogging channel. I want to be a mountain biking channel. So in order to talk to you for a bit and keep you entertained, I have compiled some riding footage from about a week and a half of riding, so that your eyes may have something to feast on while I yap your ear off. Sort of like the Subway Surfer videos on the top of TikToks. But yeah, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen an adult fall? I mean, somebody above the age of 20 fall? Some of you may have said yeah. Some of you may have seen an adult fall. I personally don't see too many. In action sports, however, crashes and injuries are just a part of the ticket. From as early as 4 years old to as late as 70 to 80, sports like mountain biking claim fall victims, and sometimes those lead to injuries. Well, at least I've been mountain biking for over 4 years, and just recently have I tried to put in a lot of effort towards improving my riding. In doing so, I've had many crashes. How about we roll through some of them?
Oh, shit! No manches.
But my most recent one took me out of the game for about 3+ weeks. And I consider myself lucky that it wasn't more serious. Though I never went to the hospital for a lack of insurance, so let's hope it doesn't come back to bite me later. Everyone has heard the absolute horror stories of 6 to 7 month recovery times from YouTubers like Seth from Burn Peak, or pro riders like Fabio Widmer. And in some cases, full recovery could take up to 2 years or more. If left untreated, injuries can cause all sorts of muscle imbalances, joint issues, muscle issues, tendon issues, and the list goes on. I myself know a bit of that pain from my childhood injuries that range from a skating spill that left me with a frozen left elbow, to twisted ankles from sports I wasn't good at, to a dislocated clavicle from falling off of a play structure when I was in first grade. I never really received any physical therapy for any of these injuries, and I'd say I've felt upper back pain since the age of 9, lower back pain pretty early on as well, and sciatica, clicky knees, shoulders, and ankles really up until maybe 6 months ago. But for now, I'll go back to explaining my crash, real quick, and then I'll cover in detail my recovery routine that I credit for getting me back on the bike so quickly, as well as general physical therapy that I do to improve my nerves, tendons, and joints, and the recovery that I do after most heavy physical days. Whether it's riding, hiking, going to the gym, boogie boarding, etc., etc. Just physical activity. So as far as the crash goes, I am deeply sorry to announce that this is one of the few times that I wasn't filming and therefore did not catch it. The good thing is I have proof of injury, but sadly, nothing else. Anywho, for any local San Diegans that are watching, I crashed at the Sweetwater Bike Park, and even though I typically wear protection, it was quite hot in SoCal a few weeks ago, and this day was no different. So I ended up leaving my elbow and knee pads at home that day, although this probably would not have helped all that much to the subsequent elbow and wrist compressions that I suffered from slamming pretty hard. But yeah, I was focusing on trying to clear the second line for the second time ever, and the second time that week. But I was rushing the process and was not paying attention to important details. My tires were nice and plump at 50 psi, and I was getting sloppy with my cornering. My front washed out on the second roller that you could see right here, and stopped my bike completely before I flew over the bars, maybe 10+ feet from where I initially washed out. I rolled pretty decently, or so I think, because I was up instantly after the slam, and I jogged it off, but I noticed pretty quickly that my left wrist had taken a heavy impact, my right wrist a heavy impact, as well as some pain on my right hip, shoulder, knee, but most importantly and painfully was the hyperextension of my elbow that became apparent because not 5 minutes after the crash, my elbow began to lock up and consequently swell up till it was at a near 90-degree bend. Man, what a rough day at the office, you guys. Little ding on the arm. Can't really move it right now. Wrist hurts. Wrist hurts. Both of the wrists hurts. Little back thing. That's gonna turn purple soon enough. A little something on the knee, but
just another day at the office.
as I previously stated, I'm no stranger to this injury since I suffered an even worse one on my left elbow when I was about 15 or 16. And left mostly untreated for many years, it currently lacks about 20% or more range of motion. This brings me back to recovery. But I don't just want to talk about physical recovery, I will also touch on mental recovery as well. They are both important in order to get back on the bike as quickly as possible and feel as prepared as possible. In order for me to feel like I was working towards getting back on the bike, I made sure to work on my mobility, stability, and flexibility as a priority to make sure my body was prepped for the harshness of mountain biking. And as soon as possible. My toppest and immediate priority, however, was taking care of my newly injured elbow. And I started, of course, by wearing a sling for about 3 days just to keep pressure off of the joint and all of the swollen nerves in the vicinity. I iced it 3 or more times a day for the first week, and then 1 to 2 times a day for the next 2-ish weeks. I maintained my arm on elevated surfaces for as long as I could, before I decided it was time that my arm could fend for itself again. Oh yeah, and I'm not sure how much this helped, but I always make sure to finish my showers with as cold a water as my shower can provide. In the meantime, I still carried out mobility, flexibility, and stability training on the rest of my body, until I could include my right arm. For me, this kind of training is essential to feel like my body can take a crash, but also that I could be pain-free and mobile even after long rides or exercise challenges. I'm still very new to this kind of athletic focus training, but it's the only thing that keeps my body pain-free when I'm at rest and pain-enduring when I'm physically active. I work from the bottom to the top by focusing on my ankle joint, as well as trying to move around as many parts of my foot as possible in order to compensate for the feet's lack of mobility while wearing shoes or resting. The knee joint is obviously next on the chain, and I train it much like everything else, by applying pressure to it strategically to strengthen it as well as stretching it to make sure it doesn't stay compressed. I like to pay particular attention to my right knee because I've had plenty of injuries there that limit some of my mobility and sometimes give me the fear clicking knee syndrome. Next, I work up to my hips, which are a big focus of my training, because hips are essential to mountain biking. So much of riding successfully and balance resides at the hips. But of course, don't take my word for it. What do I know? No, in all seriousness, I really don't know much. I am no professional, so definitely don't take my word for it, but I'm pretty sure it resides at the hips and possibly the shoulders. In any case, a lot of my sciatic and lower back pain went away when I strengthened muscles like the hip flexors and adductor muscles, among many other ligaments, tendons, bones, and muscles that get strengthened in the process, but I'm not knowledgeable enough to explain, nor do we have the time to explain the fine inner workings of the hips. Then of course, I try to do some exercises for spine health. However, I do feel like most exercises in general, as long as they are varied enough, provide some work for the spine to profit off of. Same as the elbows. Lastly, I place an equal importance on the upper back and shoulder area because it is an area that I have neglected for many years and it caused me a lot of chronic pain in the form of scapular winging, all sorts of tight neck pain, muscle spasms, sore shoulders, and the list goes on. And look, I know how this is all coming off. It's got a boo-hoo, poor Arturo, womp womp, lots of pain, but nope. The important thing for me is that for the most part, I don't feel a lot of that pain anymore. And I'm only a few months into my physical therapy journey.
Oh, wow.
I can't help but wonder what the future will hold for me. Completely pain-free? Maybe. Possibly. Able to do the splits? Hey, who knows? Professional mountain biker? Highly unlikely, but all the same, the future is an enigma. But anywho, the other form of recovery that I chose to consciously work on, and it is just as important and just as overlooked, at least personally, is mental recovery. My best advice when you've slammed hard, and it's going to be a bit before you get back on the horse, is to not dwell too much on what you could have done better. There is an infinity of options and parallel worlds where you wouldn't have gotten hurt, But in this reality and in this moment, you've already fallen off the horse. It's better that you pay attention to the present moment, which is the only one you have control of. If you think you should have done better or known better, then start working on being better in the present, so that 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years later, you can look back and be proud of the work that you did. There is no point in dwelling in a past that is infinitely behind you. But, again, what do I know? My brother is only 20 years old and a silly, silly man. I can't tell you what you should do in this situation, but I will tell you what I have been doing that has been keeping me sane despite the lack of physical ability that usually keeps me afloat. In this current moment, right now, I'm very blessed to have worked hard for 4 to 5 years and saved up a good amount of money, as well as having free housing with my loving parents, among other privileges. And I know not everybody has these, so I want to take advantage of them. I have a lot of things going for me, and I reckon I have about a year's worth of almost complete freedom before I have to strap back in to ordinary working life. With that said, this crash left me unable to go mountain biking, or from gym training, and just physical activity in general. In order to keep my mind sharp and ready for action, I decided pretty early on that I would start doing 3 things regularly, just as mind exercises. Those 3 things consist of writing, reading, and even though most of you won't take this very seriously, playing Fortnite, and trying to improve as much as possible. Reading is important to me because it is an activity that allows my brain the challenge of focusing on something external to my usual thoughts and imagination. It is also stored knowledge that I can refer to at any point in my life. As an obvious point, it also keeps your brain functioning on a goal, keeps the flow of words in your brain, and it is a relaxing way to get to sleep. Writing is also a fun brain exercise because it keeps me utterly focused on the task at hand. If I lose concentration, then nothing gets written on the page. But if I can find the flow of words and ideas, I can put down my thoughts into a document that I can always refer to. Writing to me is somewhat of a capsulation of time, a bubble of my way of thinking at some specific moment after some specific event. Finally, the case of video games. Mostly and specifically Fortnite. If you've ever played Fortnite, then you understand how much skill, focus, and determination one must have in order to be really good at the game. You must be able to not panic as you try to not miss your shots, build strategic structures to counter opponent structures, and move around the map efficiently so as to always have the upper hand and not be caught by players or the storm. It truly is a game of focus, and to be good at it, one must invest a lot of hours into it. It is also a way to test the limits of my focus with 0 consequences, completely opposite of mountain biking, where loss of focus can mean grave consequences. And yeah, I know I've said a lot, and it's crazy if anybody makes it to this point of the story of the video. But in truth, recovery is not just strict physical therapy, ice packs, cold showers, brain exercises. For me, it's been a lot about doing the things I love with the people that I love. Aww. It is hanging out with my dogs more and even showing my 8-year-old dog Bruno some new tricks. It is also watching shows I haven't had time to watch like The Boys or One Piece. It means more conversations with my mom and brother. And it means quietly observing my mom and dad's work ethic and being inspired to work a little harder each day. And it also means making some of the best memories of my short life with my girlfriend, from going to LA for a concert, to boogie boarding and beaching, to dinner dates, and just laughing and smiling all throughout beautiful San Diego. Again, this has been a short recovery time of 3-ish weeks for a good amount of function in my right elbow. But I must continue the work to strengthen that arm, and continue to work on straining my left arm, if it can even be done. Which, I have some hope that it can. But yeah, I could not have had such a successful recovery without the people around me that I love. The brain exercises, the physical therapy, thanks to YouTube and Instagram, and also a love for mountain biking. I could not wait to go back to riding hard and improving more than ever before. One of the last things I wish to highlight, or that I would like to highlight, is that if you feel chronic physical pain, or even mental pain, don't try to power through it. Watch videos on how to help yourself, read books on it, or better yet, talk to people that can help. People that love you, or people that are knowledgeable. There is so much pain out there and in us that if we could understand it and do something about it, instead of wallowing in it, we could better ourselves and better our world. And yes, it is my bad for being a corny 20-year-old who still has much to learn about life. But there is no way around it. If you feel pain, physical or mental, this insignificant old me is saying that you should do something about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Shorts and long format videos are going to be coming out in the following weeks, and I can't wait to see what kind of progression I can make on the bike in the coming months and years. Thank you, and most definitely, thank you.